Fears of another deadly resurgence have been sparked by the virus's unchecked spread throughout China's population. Since restrictions were lifted, a number of other nations are tightening restrictions for travelers from the world's second-largest economy, because they are concerned that the tsunami of virus cases there may give rise to new COVID variants. China may be reopening, allowing its 1.4 billion people to come and go largely without restrictions, but at the same time China is doing the same. China reversed its COVID-0 policy completely, eliminating nearly all pandemic restrictions almost immediately. That has allowed the virus to spread unchecked and wild throughout the population. It is possible that nearly 37 million people became infected on a single day last week. In addition, China will no longer require inbound travelers to undergo quarantine beginning January 8. This move is thought to increase the likelihood that people will travel outside of China after nearly 3 years of complete isolation. Given that China had a sizable outbound tourism industry prior to the pandemic, other nations are now alert to the possibility of a resurgence of infections among their own populations. These are the new regulations that countries are putting in place. States of America. From January 5, all airline passengers from China must present a negative COVID-19 test result, regardless of their citizenship or vaccination status. According to federal health officials, travelers who were also present in the nation 10 days before leaving for the US will need to present the results of either a negative PCR or antigen test. Also subject to the requirement are visitors from Macau and Hong Kong. In lieu of a negative test result, travelers who tested positive more than 10 days before departure can present documentation and proof of recovery from COVID. Prior to boarding any flight to the US, airlines must confirm the results of the negative COVID test or provide documentation of recovery. Italy. A rapid COVID-19 test is now required for all travelers entering Italy from China, according to a statement from the health ministry. Passengers who are in transit are also subject to the new rule. Given that they are a part of the open border Schengen area, and were the first country in Europe to be severely affected by COVID in early 2020, Italy is also urging other nations in the area to adopt a collective testing agreement. Authorities in Milan had earlier reported that nearly 50% of the travelers on 2 flights from China had tested positive for the virus. The majority were exhibiting no symptoms. Taiwan. According to the Taiwan Centers for Disease Control, travelers from mainland China to Taiwan in January will be subjected to PCR testing when they arrive. A 5-day home quarantine will be required of those who test positive. Japan. Beginning on December 30th, the Japanese government imposed emergency COVID measures to impose stricter limitations on travel from China. Authorities now demand a COVID test be performed upon arrival for visitors from the Chinese mainland, and those who were there within the previous 7 days, and a week of quarantine, if the test is positive. Only certain airports will accept direct flights from Hong Kong, Macau, and mainland China, and airlines have been asked not to increase the number of flights at this time. Malaysia. For the purpose of tracking people who have a positive COVID test result, Malaysia is working to enhance its digital management system. A home surveillance order and a release order will be digitally issued in positive cases. India. India announced late on Thursday that starting on January 1st, all visitors from China, Hong Kong, Japan, South Korea, Singapore, and Thailand will be required to undergo a PCR test.